Hey there YouTube, Wrestling Optimus here, back with another action figure review. It's Wednesday, the best night of the wrestling week, which means it's time for AEW Dynamite on TNT. Saturday's Full Gear pay-per-view is in the books, but we're still dealing with the fallout, so that should mean plenty of surprises. As always, if you're new here, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more pro wrestling and action figure content. Now, we're headed into my custom dailies place, so for a recap and review, let's take it over to the action figures. Dynamite has a brand new intro theme which goes directly into a promo from Taz. He points out the new TNT champion, Darby Allin, who's watching from the stands, and sarcastically congratulates him. Then, he warns that if Darby comes near the ring, Team Taz will kick his ass again, just like they did at Full Gear. And that goes for Cody too. Taz puts over Brian Cage's opponent, Matt Sydal, then joins commentary for the match. Predictably, Cage uses his power to get an early advantage before Sydal methodically chops down the big man with a few stiff kicks to the thigh. He follows it up with a swinging neckbreaker and a twisting, standing moonsault, but can't quite put away the machine. Cage's cardio starts to give out, and he gets noticeably sloppier, allowing Sydal to easily counter his attacks. But when Sydal tries the top rope maneuver, he's caught in mid-air and slammed down hard with the drill claw. Your winner is Brian Cage. After the match, Ricky Starks cuts a promo explaining that he's ranked now and coming for the TNT title. He also promises a Team FTW presence later on. Out comes the newly rechristened Cody Rhodes, who references that tonight's episode is literally taking place during a tropical storm, which can be felt by everyone in the outdoor amphitheater. Unlike Taz, he sincerely congratulates Darby Allin on becoming TNT champion and says he won't be seeking a rematch. Before he can explain what he will be seeking, a woman approaches and takes the mic. She announces herself as Jade Cargill and congratulates Cody on getting the Rhodes name back. Then, she recalls hearing Cody refer to himself as the Giant Killer recently. Well, she knows a real giant, and unlike Cody, he isn't afraid to go by just one name: Shaq. That brings out Brandy for a blistering promo. She says this is her house, and that's her man, so now Jade is Brandy's problem. Then, she tells Cargill to get her ass off the stage until the CBO sends for her. Damn. But instead, Jade condescendingly smacks Brandy on the ass. They fight and have to be separated by officials. Out of nowhere, Brian Cage rushes the ring and powerbombs Cody. Ricky Starks joins in until Darby's music plays. He makes his way down from the stands, wearing a jacket covered in thumbtacks, and uses it to add extra damage to the coffin drop he gives Ricky and the splash he gives Cage. Team Taz regroups, but Big Will Hobbs chases them off as the baby faces stand tall. Alex Marvez congratulates Jon Moxley on defending his title against Eddie Kingston at Full Gear, and asks for his thoughts on the new #1 contender, Kenny Omega. Mox admits when he first arrived in AEW, he wasn't interested in all the responsibility that comes with being champion. He just wanted to fight. But things change, and on Saturday night, he realized what this championship represents. It's for all the people who feel disenfranchised right now, and all the kids who got made fun of for liking pro wrestling. Now, his next challenge is Kenny Omega, one of the greatest pro wrestlers ever, yet Moxley already fought Kenny and won. If anyone can beat him a second time, it's Mox. Time for the Bunkhouse Brawl. This is based on the early 80s NWA bunkhouse matches, which were usually over-the-top battle royales or cage matches where weapons were highly encouraged. To that end, the Butcher comes out with a kendo stick and the Blade comes out with a chair. However, this is basically just a no-holds-barred tag team match with Western theming. They missed a great opportunity not having Hangman sipping whiskey while sitting on a hay bale. Dustin and QT Marshall are dressed for the occasion in their finest jeans and cowboy boots as they jump the heels at the bell. It's a classic brawl. On the outside, Dustin hits the Butcher with the Final Reckoning onto a chair, while the Blade smashes a guitar over QT Marshall's head. Channeling his dad, Dustin grabs a bull rope and strangles the Blade. During a commercial break, QT is held down while the bunny carves into his already bloody face with a pair of scissors. The Natural Nightmares slowly fight back as Dustin drags the Butcher up towards the heel tunnel. QT comes out of nowhere and sprays the Butcher with a fire extinguisher before Dustin gives him a bulldog off the stage. The Blade and QT are completely covered in blood as they square off in the ring. QT sets up a massive ladder and does an awesome flying elbow off of it, but only gets a 2 count. In a classic bit, the Blade goes to hit QT with a chair, but almost hits the bunny instead. He gets knocked into her anyway and sends her flying through a table. The Blade turns around only to get clocked in the face with a cowbell by Dustin, then hit with a diamond cutter by QT for a hard-fought victory. If you like blood-soaked hardcore matches the way I do, then you probably enjoyed this. If not, then it probably wasn't for you. And that's what's so great about AEW. It's eclectic, not homogenous, so if you don't like something, just wait for the next segment. Which happens to be a video of Matt Hardy recapping his 8-month feud with Sammy Guevara. Citing all their injuries, he says it's unlike anything he's ever been involved with, and Sammy's earned his respect. The Spanish God had to be deleted, but fighting a legend like Hardy will elevate Guevara, as long as he doesn't squander the opportunity. Next is the Inner Circle induction ceremony for MJF and Wardlow, with Master of Ceremonies Chris Jericho. These will be the first new members since Dynamite started. But first, he brings out the original members, who are missing Sammy and don't look too pleased with their group's latest additions. Then, he welcomes the Men of the Hour. MJF steps up to the podium and cuts a brilliant promo, bragging about his 5-year-long journey in the business that he did all by himself, with only a $1 million loan from his father. Yet he made it work and overcame the pressure to become the Diamond you see today. In honor of this momentous occasion, he claims to have written a little bit of poetry, but it's just some Drake lyrics. Ortiz calls him out and says he doesn't want MJF in the group. Jericho understands their reservations, but he also firmly believes that with MJF's mind and Wardlow's muscle, the Inner Circle will be stronger than ever. MJF interrupts to announce that in celebration of Chris Jericho's real-life 50th birthday, he's taking the entire Inner Circle on an all-expense-paid trip to Vegas. His treat! Alex Marvez hesitantly interviews the Young Bucks about what's next after capturing the AEW Tag Team titles at Full Gear. Nick calls it the biggest accomplishment of their careers and says the world wants a rematch, but Matt interjects and says a few months ago he got a message to check out an up-and-coming tag team. It turns out they're a lot like the Bucks, so next week on Dynamite, they're giving Top Flight an opportunity to show what they can do against the champs. These guys appeared on Dark once and look decent, so this should be a match worth watching. We finally get to see Shawn Spears vs Scorpio Sky after a coronavirus-related delay. Spears is accompanied by Tully Blanchard per usual, while the tropical storm blows away all the smoke from Scorpio Sky's entrance pyro. For some reason, they immediately cut to JR's favorite, Picture in Picture. When we come back, they fight around the outside over to the steel steps. Spears hits a sidewalk slam onto them before they move back into the ring. Sky sinks in the Scorpio Deathlock, but when it looks like Spears is reaching for the ropes, Tully hands him the metal slug. He loads his glove and decks Sky in the face to pick up a sneaky win. Dasha says she was supposed to interview Kenny Omega, but apparently he ran off. Luckily, Alex Marvez is back and found him in the parking lot. Omega claims he's stepping out of the shadows and back into the spotlight. Mox has the championship that Kenny thinks will bring back his glory days as the cleaner in New Japan. If he wants to get back to being the 5-star best bout machine, he'll need to win that title. Oh, and last time he checked, there's no record of Jon Moxley beating Kenny Omega because it was unsanctioned. So as far as he's concerned, they're 0-0. The one and only women's segment begins with a recap of the 2 women's matches from Full Gear. Ty Conti makes her way to the ring, accompanied by Anna Jay, to take on Red Velvet with her new mentor, Brandy Rhodes. Despite the influence of her best friend, Conti has not joined Dark Order and wrestles babyface in this match. For example, when Anna Jay slides in a chair, she refuses and kicks it away. But the distraction briefly gives Red Velvet the upper hand. Eventually, Tai hits an interesting Guri stretch into a modified GTS and gets the victory. She teases a little bit of tension with Anna Jay afterwards as Dark Order looks on from the tunnel. I really like all these women, but that was a sloppy match and will only fuel criticism of the division as a whole. Also, where was champion Hikaru Shida? Or the other women's champion they randomly have now, Serena Deeb? Where was the follow-up to the Vicious Vixens falling out? And where was the division's best character, Britt Baker? Alex Marvez is putting in work tonight. This time he's with the Inner Circle, talking about their upcoming trip to Vegas, when Sammy Guevara walks in pissed because he went to the beach like it said in Max's email. Apparently there was a second email that everyone else got except for Sammy. MJF tells him not to worry though, and hands him his first class ticket. We'll find out what happened on their trip next week. Out comes Eddie Kingston, who admits that he was forced to say "I quit" at Full Gear, but that won't stop him from becoming world champion one day. Before joining commentary, he hypes up the Lucha Brothers to the audience as the best luchadors in the world. They square off in our main event, and it's just as incredible as you'd expect from these two. At one point, showing a ruthlessness that he lacked in their first sibling showdown, Pentagon rips apart his younger brother's mask, leaving half of his face exposed. Later, Phoenix gets his revenge by ripping off the top half of Pentagon's mask. Eddie plays favorites again by justifying the former, but not the latter. In the end, Pentagon comes out on top with 2 consecutive package piledrivers for the win. Afterwards, Kingston insults the audience and continues putting over Pentagon while kicking Phoenix out of the ring. Then, he starts trying to convince Penta that he doesn't need his little brother anymore when familiar music starts to play. It's Pac! The bastard is back and asks if Eddie thought he'd be gone forever. Then, in his trademark threatening tone, he says Eddie made a very, very big mistake. Officials keep them separate as commentary announces that Pac's return match will be next week against the Blade. Oh my gosh, this story could go in a million directions, and not only do they all sound great, but no matter which one AEW chooses, I trust them to pull it off. Either way, it will likely involve Pac running through all of Eddie's family on his quest to take out the King. Okay, that wasn't the best episode ever, but it was still really good, had an exciting ending, and set up an intriguing show for next week. There were some big moments with the return of Pac and the tease of Cody vs. Shaq. The men's wrestling was good, highlighted by the fantastic main event. I satiated my weekly bloodlust with the Bunkhouse Brawl, and I thought the Inner Circle induction ceremony was a fun continuation of the MJF and Jericho storyline. Plus, I can't wait to see what shenanigans they get up to in Vegas. What's interesting is, this mediocre Dynamite would probably be considered a 5-star Raw or SmackDown. That's how different the standards have become, and AEW pulled it off without relying on Dark Order, Jurassic Express, Miro, Best Friends, Orange Cassidy, Hangman Adam Page, Lance Archer, FTR, or Private Party. I don't think we've seen roster depth like this since the Attitude Era. Alright, that will do it for AEW Dynamite. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you thought in the comments down below. I'm still not doing WWE reviews for the time being, but keep it here for all the other great content I plan on releasing in the coming days. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to do all that normal YouTube stuff. Smash the like button, share with any wrestling or action figure fans you may know, subscribe to the channel, and spread the word. You can also talk to me over on Twitter at PSUOptimus, or see all my best figure photography over on Instagram at WrestlingOptimus. If you haven't seen my action figure review of Full Gear, you can check that out right here. But until next time, I've been Wrestling Optimus, and I'll catch you later.